as the amber hues of the setting sun melted into the haunting blues of twilight. Arman adjusted his rearview mirror, a wistful smile spreading across his face. The truck rumbled along Route 99, the lonely highway stretching infinitely ahead. A single photograph taped to the dashboard caught his gaze, a picture of a little girl, her beaming smile like sunshine on a rainy day. "Daddy, promise you'll come back safe," she had whispered tearfully that morning, her tiny fingers clutching his sleeve. It wasn't just a journey for Arman, it was a promise to his daughter, one he was determined to keep, no matter how long the night stretched. But deep within, he felt a strange heaviness, a foreboding sensation he couldn't quite shake. The eerie silence of the highway was broken by a sudden flicker of his headlights. Arman slammed on the brakes as a figure materialized in the middle of the road. A woman, her tattered white dress billowing in the wind, her hair cascading in unruly waves across her face. She didn't flinch as the truck screeched to a halt mere inches from her. Frozen, Arman stared, his heart pounding like a hammer against his chest. Her face remained obscured, but her stance was unnerving, as if she had been waiting. The air grew thick, suffocatingly cold, and an unexplainable chill ran down his spine. Against every instinct screaming for him to drive away, he rolled down the window. "Are you okay?" he called out, his voice trembling. She tilted her head slowly, unnaturally, as if dissecting him with invisible eyes. "Help me," she whispered, her voice trembling with desperation and grief. It was a cry that struck a chord deep within Arman. "Please, my child. She's out there," she added, pointing towards the dense forest lining the road. Arman's breath caught. Memories of his own daughter flashed before his eyes. Her innocent laughter, her love. Who would abandon a mother like this? He thought. Without a second's hesitation, he grabbed his flashlight and stepped out, the chill of the night air biting into his skin. She walked ahead, her steps unsteady, leading him towards the forest. "How long has she been missing?" he asked, glancing at her. But the woman didn't answer. Her focus was unwavering, her movements mechanical. The forest was eerily quiet, the tall trees casting monstrous shadows under the moonlight. As they ventured deeper, Arman noticed something horrifying. Child-sized footprints in the damp soil, trailing into the black abyss. A knot of unease tightened in his stomach. Suddenly the woman stopped. "Here," she said, her voice distant, her hand pointing towards a clearing ahead. Arman raised his flashlight. In the beam of light stood a rusted swing, creaking eerily in the wind. Below it lay a single shoe, small and pink, coated in dirt. His heart sank. "Is this your child's?" he whispered. But when he turned to face her, she was gone. The silence grew deafening, the air oppressive, and the realization hit him like a truck. The woman wasn't leading him to save her child. She was leading him to something else. Panic surged through him as he retraced his steps, desperate to escape the forest. But no matter how far he ran, the clearing with the swing seemed to pull him back. His flashlight flickered, and his heart thudded when a soft giggle echoed from the darkness, a child's laughter. "Hello?" he called out, his voice breaking. The laughter grew louder, closer. And then he saw her, a little girl, her face pale, her eyes void of light, clutching the hand of the mysterious woman. "You shouldn't have come here, Daddy," the girl said in a chillingly familiar voice. His knees buckled as he recognized her. It was his daughter. But how? She was miles away, safe at home. Or was she? The woman stepped forward, her face finally visible, twisted in an inhuman grin. "You made a promise, Arman. and promises have a price. As the forest grew darker, Arman's screams echoed into the void. Arman's breath came in ragged gasps as he stumbled through the dense forest, his flashlight barely cutting through the suffocating darkness. The laughter of the child, his daughter, or whatever it was, still echoed in his ears, chilling his blood. He kept running, desperate to escape the twisted clearing with the rusty swing, but every path seemed to lead him back. The cold seeped into his bones, and an unshakable dread clawed at his mind. "Stay away!" he screamed, his voice trembling as he turned to face the empty void behind him. His flashlight flickered once, twice, and then died, plunging him into absolute darkness. A cold hand brushed against his neck, and a whisper rasped in his ear. "You can't leave, Arman. This is your fate." When Arman awoke, he was back in his truck, the engine humming softly, the first rays of dawn piercing through the windshield. He jolted upright, his heart pounding as he scanned his surroundings. The forest was gone, replaced by the familiar desolation of Route 99. For a moment, he thought it was all a nightmare until he saw it. The woman, standing by the roadside, staring directly at him. Summoning his courage, he stepped out of the truck. "What do you want from me?" he demanded, his voice shaking. She tilted her head, her eyes hollow yet piercing. "You made a promise to your daughter," she said. "But what about mine?" She began to unravel her story, a tale of betrayal, loss, and vengeance. Decades ago, she had been traveling with her own daughter on this very highway when a careless truck driver had crashed into them, killing the child instantly. The driver fled, leaving her to die, but she didn't. Instead, her grief and anger bound her spirit to the highway, forcing her to wander endlessly, seeking justice. "You're not him," she admitted, her voice thick with sorrow. "But you'll do." Arman's mind reeled as the woman's words sank in. He wasn't the man who caused her pain, yet she had chosen him as her scapegoat. "Why me?" he whispered, tears streaming down his face. She stepped closer, her ghostly form flickering. "Because you're a father. You'll understand the pain of losing a child." Over the next few nights, Arman became a prisoner to the highway. Every attempt to escape Route 99 ended with him back where he started. His fuel never ran out, his truck never stalled, but the road stretched endlessly, and the woman's presence lingered. She appeared in his mirrors, whispered in his ears, and filled his dreams with horrifying visions of his daughter crying for help. One fateful night, Arman heard it again, the giggle of the little girl. This time it came from inside the truck. Trembling, he turned to see his daughter sitting in the passenger seat, her face pale, her eyes brimming with tears. "Daddy, why did you leave me?" she asked, her voice breaking. "I didn't leave you," Arman sobbed, reaching out to her, but his hand passed through her like smoke. The truck lurched violently, and the woman appeared, her face twisted with rage. "You can save her," she hissed, "but you must pay the price. Give me your soul, and she will live." Arman's heart wrenched as he looked at the ghostly figure of his daughter. "I'll do it," he said, his voice steady despite the fear coursing through him. "Just let her go." The woman smiled, a cruel, cold expression, and reached out her hand. "Then it's done." The moment their hands touched, a searing pain tore through Arman's chest, and his vision blurred. He collapsed to the ground as the woman and the child vanished, leaving behind only silence. When he woke up, he was in a hospital bed, a nurse telling him he had been found unconscious in his truck on the side of Route 99. Arman sat trembling in the forest clearing, his gaze darting between the woman and the spectral figure of his daughter. The child's eyes shimmered with tears, her voice a faint echo. "Save me, Daddy," she whispered, her tiny hands reaching out toward him. Every fiber of his being screamed to hold her, to protect her, but the woman's voice cut through the air like a blade. "Your soul for hers," she repeated, her expression unreadable. "This is your last chance, Arman. Refuse and she'll remain here forever, lost in the void, crying for a father who broke his promise." Arman's knees buckled beneath the weight of her words. He clutched his chest, gasping for air as his daughter's pleading eyes bore into him. "I'll do it," he croaked finally, his voice trembling. "Take me. Just let her go." The woman smiled, a slow, cruel curve of her lips. She extended her hand, her nails blackened and jagged, and pressed her palm against Arman's chest. A searing pain exploded within him, as if his very essence was being torn apart. He screamed, his voice echoing into the endless night, his vision blurring into darkness. When he woke, he was lying on the ground beside his truck, the morning sun casting a golden hue over the desolate highway. Disoriented, he scrambled to his feet and found his daughter's photograph on the dashboard, her smile as bright as ever. For a brief, blissful moment, he believed it was over. He had saved her. But as he drove back home, the sound of faint laughter echoed in the back of the truck, a sound no father could forget. Weeks passed, and life returned to a fragile semblance of normalcy. Arman's daughter Sana was safe at home, her laughter filling the air as she played in the yard. But Arman couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The house felt colder, the nights darker, and shadows seemed to linger where they shouldn't. One night, as Arman sat alone in the living room, sorting through old photos, the lights flickered. A chill swept through the air, and a familiar voice whispered from the corner of the room, "Did you think it was over?" Arman froze, his blood running cold. Slowly, he turned to see the woman standing there, her eyes glowing faintly in the dark. "You gave me your soul," she hissed. "But promises come with a price, Arman. You've only delayed the inevitable." "What do you want now?" Arman demanded, his voice shaking. "I never left," she replied, her figure flickering like a shadow caught in a storm. "You may have saved your daughter, but the debt remains. Every step you take, every breath you draw, I will be there, waiting." Over the following nights, the hauntings intensified. Arman began hearing his daughter's voice echoing through the halls even when she was asleep. Objects moved on their own, and whispers of "Daddy, help me," followed him everywhere. The photograph on his truck's dashboard reappeared on his bedside table, and the image of Sana seemed to grow darker, her smile slowly fading with each passing day. The breaking point came when Arman woke one night to find his daughter standing by his bed, her face pale and emotionless. "She's here, Daddy," Sana said, pointing toward the door. "She's coming for us." Terrified, Arman bolted from the bed and ran to the door, but it slammed shut before he could open it. The woman's laughter filled the room, echoing in his ears as the lights went out. The episode ends with Arman screaming Sana's name as the screen fades to black, leaving the audience with the chilling realization that the curse is far from over. Arman returned home to find his daughter safe and sound, her smile as bright as ever. For a moment, he believed it was over, that he had escaped the woman's curse. But something wasn't right. Shadows moved unnaturally in his home. Whispers followed him, and every night he dreamed of the woman, her face twisted with malice. One night, he found a letter on his bedside table in handwriting he didn't recognize. It read, "The promise is fulfilled, but the debt remains. See you soon." Years passed, and Arman tried to forget the horrors of Route 99. But the curse followed him like a shadow. On his daughter's 18th birthday, she disappeared without a trace. Frantic, Armand returned to the highway, where he found her standing by the roadside, her face pale, her eyes hollow. "Daddy," she said, her voice devoid of emotion. "It's my turn now." Behind her stood the woman, her grin wider than ever. "A promise always comes with a price," she said. The episode ends with Armand screaming as the woman and his daughter vanish into the fog, leaving behind the haunting sound of a child's laughter.